On this episode of NBA Now and Then, the greatest comparisons, we compare two draft classes that produced some of the most spectacular players to ever step on a basketball court.
Whoever was a teammate of any of these stars could count on them to elevate their games at any moment.
Draft classes that have inspired millions of fans.
The Hall of Fame players in these drafts have scored more than 250,000 points combined,
while impacting the game of basketball for decades to come.
With almost a dozen MVPs and over a dozen championships between the Hall of Fame players in these drafts, it only makes sense we compare the two.
We are honored to present to you the 1984 and 1996 NBA draft classes. I'm Uriah.
I'm Maurice.
I'm Lucas.
And I'm Ben.
And we are here to talk NBA
Now and Then.
All right, we are back and we have a very special episode. We have done so many comparisons of individual players from today and comparing them to players of yesterday, but we thought we would shake things up a little bit and give you something that a lot of people have been debating for many years now. If you are a young NBA fan who maybe started watching around the age of 10 years ago, you probably have never seen a lot of these players other than YouTube. But what we're going to do is we're going to offer a glimpse into the players in these drafts. And again, if you're a young player or if you're a young person who loves the NBA, a lot of these stars that we're mentioning from 96 and 84, they're still on TV. They're still relevant. They're still co-hosts on big time shows like TNT or ESPN. And if you don't see them there, you're guaranteed to see them somewhere on social media or maybe even a TV commercial. So that being said, Ben, let's go to you first. Why are we comparing these two drafts right here?
I think objectively, everyone talks about these two drafts. It's like unanimous, top heavy, also kind of deep. I think they have the most players that have won MVPs from what I remember in the modern NBA. So that's probably the biggest reason. And then just the personalities that came out. Like these two drafts changed the league forever. I think the 84 started it, and then 96 really took over. The league before that, I think, was just like one or two players, Bird, Magic, maybe Dr. J. And then it started dispersing the talent. And this I think, was the start of it.
Yeah, that's a good point. Very good point. It's kind of like a tipping point, like something builds up and builds up, Magic and Larry, and then all of a sudden, boom, here comes Jordan, here comes Hakeem. And that tipping point really opened up the NBA to the talent that was, I guess, out there hidden. It just popularized the sport beyond belief. Maurice, what about you? Why are we doing these draft comparisons?
Well, these two draft classes produced a handful of the most iconic players that we know and love today. Like you said in the intro, they're on TV, they're on social media, they're on your feet. You mentioned that. They're on your,
They are on your feet. Yeah,
they're on your feet. This is going to be fun to do.
You're absolutely right. The logos themselves are synonymous with the NBA.
And on top of that, I would say these two draft classes inspired more of the next generation to come as well.
Yeah, excellent. Lucas, what about you? You're the youngin on this episode, but we know you are a basketball maven. You probably know more than us when it comes to certain stats. But why do you think we're doing this draft today?
Well, first off, I don't feel young. That's for sure. I'm in my 30s. Let's be clear. But in terms of why we're doing these two drafts, you can make the argument that the top 3 shooting guards in NBA history came out of these two drafts, and arguably 4 of the top 10 shooting guards came out of these two drafts. With that in mind, that's the reason why I think we should be comparing these two, and especially 1 and 2 at the shooting guard position. I mean, they're always going to be compared.
Yeah. Anytime you mention Jordan, you're going to probably have a Kobe comment in there, or vice versa. You mention Kobe, you have to mention Jordan. And those two players are going to be part of our conversation today. Big parts of our conversation.
Lucas, I got one too. It just hit me when you said it. We also might have 2 of the top 5 point guards of all time in this draft.
Ooh,
in both drafts. If you think about,
I have those 2 in the top 10, not top 5, but Arguments could be made.
All right, well, let's get to it.
First quarter.
All right, so it's now my turn. Instead of giving you any biographical content, I'm actually going to read the draft order from 1984, and then we'll go to 1996. So in case you've been living under a rock as an NBA fan, here are the top picks from the 1984 draft. In order, we have Hakeem Olajuwon at number 1. Number 2, Sam Bowie. Number 3, Michael Jordan. 4, Sam Perkins. 5, Charles Barkley. At the 6th pick, you had Melvin Turpin, or better known as Mel Turpin. Number 7 was Alvin Robertson. Number 8 was Lancaster Gordon. A little unfamiliar name there. Then we had Otis Thorpe at 9. At 10, we had Leon Wood. I'm going to stop right there. Besides, obviously, Jordan and Hakeem, Lucas, any of those names pop out to you?
Leon Wood, current NBA ref, did not realize that he played in the league and did not realize he was in the Jordan draft.
Yeah, I didn't know that either. That's a good point. What
Thanks,
about you,
Maurice?
He stole his point.
Yeah, I did.
Give it back.
Never.
Yeah, give it back.
I'd say the Leon Wood is the funniest, but Barkley, Barkley, obviously, he's kind of the forgotten guy in this draft in a way. Obviously, he's super famous, but Charles Barkley.
And Maurice, who stands out in that top 10?
Oh, it sucks to be Sam Bowie.
Oh,
because it sucks to be the Portland Trailblazers as well. This is the era when you draft big.
Yeah.
The Portland Trailblazers wanted to draft big. Sam Bowie had injury concerns coming out of Kentucky, but they still went with him.
Well, didn't they already have a
Obviously.
shooting guard already? Didn't they?
They had Clyde Drexler, but he was more of a 3, and they didn't want to have the same type player, so they went big.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously it didn't work out for them.
Yeah.
He had injuries throughout his career, and he wasn't Michael Jordan. I'll just say that.
All right. And the one player I think stands out in the top 10 was Mel Turpin, just because there's a story where I guess Jordan was playing in Utah and they were yelling at Jordan in the stands, stop picking on John Stockton. And I believe Mel Turpin was the player that Jordan on the next play went down on the other end and actually dunked and said to the person in the stands, was he big enough? So Mel Turpin, solid big man. I think he played in Utah, but he stands out to me. All right, let's get back to the list. All right, I left off at 10. At number 11, a player who played a long time in Atlanta, Kevin Willis. Mm-hmm. Then at 12, we have Tim McCormick. At 13, Jay Humphreys. 14, Michael Cage. 15, Terrence Stansbury. The 16th pick, I think you guys know this guy, John Stockton. 17, Jeff Turner. Number 18, Vern Fleming. Number 19, Bernard Thompson. And the 20th pick in the 84 draft was Tony Campbell. Let's take a break. Let's go to Ben. Any of those players between 11 and 20 stand out?
Yeah, I mean, it's obviously John Stockton. I get why he fell. Gonzaga now is a household name. I think there probably wasn't much coverage given the conference they were in back then. Scouting was probably more difficult. So you kind of needed to be in like one of those top ranked schools. So I think that's probably why he fell to 16. One of the top 2-3 point guards of all time.
Okay. Maurice, what player stood out to you?
Me being a dunk contest enthusiast, I remember Terrence Stansbury being a good dunker in the dunk contest, but his career pretty much flamed out pretty quick. He played for the Seattle Supersonics, but it wasn't a long career. Came out of Temple, though.
Okay. Yeah, I didn't even know that. I forgot that he was in a dunk contest. Lucas, what about you?
I mean, it's Kevin Willis. The guy played 21 years. I mean, that doesn't happen very often. Mm-hmm. I mean, LeBron's doing it right now, and Vince Carter, overall, that doesn't happen very often. So I'm going to go with Kevin Willis.
Yeah, longevity definitely served his career well. I'm going to go with the guy named Jay Humphreys. I have odd reasons. Like, I have odd memories. So when I was a kid, I would see Jay Humphreys playing for the Milwaukee Bucks. And I just used to stare at him on the screen and be like, man, that guy has the coolest mustache anybody in the NBA. So it was like,
was it one of those 80s stashes? Like a Kurt Rambis?
No, it wasn't like, it was thick. I was like, man, when I get older, I want to have a mustache like Jay Humphreys. So So
So it's like a Tom
my random.
Selleck type deal.
Yeah, he kind of reminded me of Tom Selleck. All right, let's finish this off. At the 21st pick, we had Kenny Fields. Tom Sewell was the 22nd pick. Earl Jones at 23. Michael Young at 24. At pick number 25, Devin Durant. No, I did not mispronounce that. There was a player named Devin Durant. 26, we had Victor Fleming. 27, Ron Anderson. 28, Corey Blackwell. 29, Stuart Gray. And I'll just stop at 30, Steve Burt. So, Ben, who from that range of players stands out to you?
I would say who stands out? Michael Young. It's the only one I could think of that I remember playing. I think he was on the Sixers briefly, but that's the only one I can really think of that.
That's fair enough. Yeah. I mean, they're like low rung. They're at the bottom, so
I guess guys just didn't. I don't know if there weren't many teams. It's interesting that like so many of these guys didn't have long careers. So,
yeah. And Maurice, what about you?
Well, I'm still Lucas's guy. You didn't mention him, but Jerome Kersey had a really good NBA career.
I wasn't actually going to go with him for this point. And I don't think Uriah mentioned Jerome Kersey.
I did not.
No, Jerome Kersey was in the second round.
No.
Second round pick, yeah.
I'm going to go with Victor Fleming on this one. Had a pretty good point guard for it. Not a long career, but when he was active, he was pretty good for the most part.
Okay. And I'm going to go with Ron Anderson because Ron Anderson, before he became a pro, was, from what I understand, there's a story where he was bagging groceries. I guess he was like a 6'4", dude bagging groceries, and then he ended up in the NBA. So, all right. Yeah, very good for Ron Anderson. Played for the Sixers, too. Now we're going to get to the category of top pick, which we all know in 1984 went to Hakeem Olajuwon. And what I want to do is go to each of us in this room and just say, like, was this the right pick? Whatever gut feeling, there's no judgment here. What you feel is what you feel. Let's go to Lucas first. Lucas, in 1984, Houston Rockets picked Olajuwon. Was that the right pick?
Well, put me on the spot here. You know that I'm not that. Look, before I answer that question, answer me this: Did the Rockets already have an elite shooting guard, or were they still in the market for one?
Oh man,
I would say no.
Okay,
but let me look it up.
Okay, well, let me just compare him and MJ because obviously those are the two main options here that we're looking at. MJ, greatest player of all time. Hakeem Olajuwon, arguably at least top 3 centers, if not the best center, depending on who you talk to, in an era where big men were at the premium.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to answer this in 2 folds. If I was the Rockets back then, yes, I probably would have taken Olajuwon. However, we are looking this primarily at hindsight, and hindsight is 2020, so of course MJ would be the correct answer here. But I don't fault the Rockets at all for picking Olajuwon, and it did end up getting them 2 championships. So it's not like they missed out.
Perfectly politically correct answer. Good job.
Thank you.
Ben, what about you? Ben, was that the right pick in 84?
This is a tough one because I kind of agree with Lucas. And then they made the finals his second year, right?
Yeah. They had Ralph Sampson.
Yeah. So he made the finals a few times. Olajuwon kind of reached his peak more like, as some centers do, more in their late 20s, where Jordan was right away averaging like, I think his second, third year, 37.
Yeah.
So I would say they made the wrong pick given the part of what I'll talk about in the 96 draft is I do think that like the fame and notoriety and the flashiness of Jordan really kind of transformed the game in a way that it is today. It is what it is today. So I'm going to say, even though their skill sets might be comparable, it's a no-brainer. They should have went with Jordan. And you could see that with him at UNC. You could see how good he was going to be.
Yeah.
The movie Air, not to like give that a plug, but it did a good job of showing like, man, how did this guy not go 1?
Yeah, that was a good movie.
Yeah. Maurice, what about you? Was it the right pick for Houston?
Ben kind of answered the question. Yeah, it was. It was the right pick. It went to the finals.
Mm-hmm.
They went to the finals pretty early in Hakeem Olajuwon's career. One of the seasons, they beat the Lakers. Showtime Lakers. So it was the right pick. To go back to what Lucas was asked the question, who was the shooting guard for the Houston Rockets? Poor guy. It was actually Craig Elo.
Who the heck?
Was
Who's
it?
Craig Elo?
Yes. No
Who's
way.
Craig Elo was the shooting guard for the 83-84 Houston Rockets.
Who's Craig Elo?
Wow.
I'm sorry.
Craig Elo. Elo was the guy that against the Bulls, I think it was 88, Michael Jordan hit that last second shot and Craig Elo like contested the shot.
Is this when he was he on the
Cavs?
The Cavs.
Oh,
Yeah.
it's called the shot.
The shot. That is Craig Elo, yeah.
Okay. Maybe Jordan was holding up a little grudge. I mean, look, he would do that. He would do that.
Yeah, he would.
Yeah,
he would
he
take
would.
it personally. He would.
Yeah.
And then I took it as a personal offense.
I took it personal. Yeah.
So yeah, it was the right pick for the Houston Rockets. And like I mentioned earlier, this was the era of the big man. So you drafted the great big man over the great guard.
Exactly. Yeah, in hindsight, Lucas, we could all say you would have picked Jordan, but if we were in that time era, the game was so different. There were more 2-point shots being taken. There was a post-up game, and there were guys driving to that's why you had guys like Mark Eaton and even Olajuwon averaging 4 or 5 blocks a game. So the game was different. So you had to go with Olajuwon.
The shooting guard position wasn't really
it wasn't highly
important back then. Yeah,
think about it.
Yeah, because Jerry West was a point guard.
No,
right?
Jerry was a shooting guard.
Shooting
guard.
guard.
Yeah,
Okay.
Jerry was the only
He's the only one I could think of.
proficient shooting guard of that time. I mean, prior to that time, though, there was a hole.
Andrew Toney. Yeah.
No,
The best.
not on the same.
Put yourself in that.
No. That's I'm thinking of that was the best.
Yeah.
Andrew Toney, I think, was the best shooting guard at one point.
All right, I'm still in my segment technically, but now I have to go to the 1996 draft. I will list the players in order like I did earlier, and then I will stop every 10 in that range and then just kind of reflect on some of those players. So in 1996, we have, with the number 1 pick, we had Allen Iverson go to the Sixers. The number 2 pick was Marcus Camby. The number 3 pick, Sharif Abdur-Rahim. Number 4, Stephon Marbury. Number 5, Ray Allen. Number 6, Antoine Walker. 7 was Lorenzen Wright. Number 8, Kerry Kittles. Number 9, Samaki Walker. And at number 10 was Eric Dampier. So let's go with Maurice first. In that top 10, who stands out to you?
In 96, I wasn't heavy into basketball. I was still young back then. But I want to say 97, I saw a movie featuring a young player. His name was Ray Allen.
He got game.
He got game.
Mm.
And I was like, wow,
what was his name? What was his name in the movie?
Jesus Shuttlesworth.
That's right.
Yeah, and I was like, well, okay, this is a real NBA player, and let me check him out. And I became sort of a Ray Allen fan. And, he's had a more than great, a Hall of Fame career. And he's one of the few players I can actually say his game evolved in a different way.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
He was like an athletic, shooting guard, but then he just turned around being one of the greatest 3-point shooters of all time.
Yeah.
It's crazy to watch.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I don't think anyone saw that coming. Lucas, you're getting hype over there. Hyped. Who stands out to you?
I'll say this before I get to the player. I didn't realize that Marcus Camby was a 2nd overall pick. I knew he was he was a lottery pick. I didn't realize that. But the player that stands out to me the most is Eric Dampier being a top 10 pick. I remember Eric Dampier. Now, this is when I first started watching basketball. He was the starting center next to Dirk Nowitzki in the 2006 finals.
Yep.
He was a hoss. Now, you guys know what a hoss is. He's just one of those guys that are just built. He was like, oh my gosh. But that's I never really thought and I looked at his career stats, he's never really wowed, but he had some, I don't know how to describe it, Dampier. He was just one of those physical centers.
Yeah. He was a steady presence in the middle.
And I mean, he did as good a job as anybody did it on Shaq in the finals. So, as good as anybody could do on Shaq in the finals. Rephrase.
Yeah, exactly.
So anyway.
Ben, what about you?
Samaki Walker. Don't know what school he went to. I remember him. He actually ended up having a long career. The players who went 13th, 14th, and 15th to draft Samaki Walker And kind of the same thing, Lucas, Eric Dampier, over. Yeah,
he played for Dallas, San Antonio, the Lakers, and he
had a career. It was just a journey. He was a role man,
right?
And just to have that much star potential right behind you in the draft, it was just unbelievable.
Yeah. So I'm going to go with what Maurice said, which was Ray Allen, but not for the reasons he stated when it came to his actual basketball talent, but because he also brought up the movie, or I guess Lucas brought up the movie with Jesus Shuttlesworth. Did you guys know that you wouldn't know this. I read a biography of Spike Lee, and the player that Spike Lee wanted for that original role, Maurice, was not Ray Allen.
I know that.
It was actually Allen Iverson. And Allen Iverson turned down the role of Jesus Shuttlesworth. So could you imagine AI in a movie opposite Denzel Washington? That would be crazy. That would be so crazy.
His superstardom would have catapulted even higher than
I'll say this. Ray Allen definitely, he was a young basketball player, but he obviously had some aptitude for acting and taking direction well. So I think that helped the movie flow along. I mean, the guy was 22 having to act opposite Denzel Washington. So he held his own.
All right, let's go 11 through 20. With the 11th pick, Golden State took Todd Fuller. At 12, you had Vitaly Potapenko.
Ooh,
I think I'm saying that right. 13, there's some guy named Kobe Bryant was taken. We'll get more to that later, obviously. At 14 was Peja Stojakovic. 15, Steve Nash. 16, Tony Delk. 17, Jermaine O'Neal. 18, John Wallace. 19, Walter McCarty. And at 20, Lucas, stay seated, Zydrunas Ilgauskas. I've never met anyone in my life that loves Ilgauskas as much, Lucas. So I'm going to go to you first, Lucas. In that range, who stands out?
I mean, I could go with Big Z. I could go with Kobe Bryant, but I'm actually going to go with Steve Nash, and here's why. Here's a connection between him and John Stockton that I just realized. They are the two hairiest point guards in NBA history.
Okay.
With that chest hair always
I don't know how you
that chest hair is always
I don't know how you quantify that. I don't know how you count. Do you count the chest hairs?
Yeah, the chest hairs,
what's going on
there? Just popping out of the jersey everywhere, man. I'm just like, come on, guys. There's a thing called a razor.
You took that because of my mustache comment about Jay Humphries. It's why but it's all good. All right, Maurice, what about you? Who stands out?
I'm going to go with the obvious one, Kobe Bryant.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, revisionist history, of course, but Kobe had a top 5 skill set.
Mm-hmm.
Even though he came out of high school, he was a really good player, and he really impressed Jerry West so much that, he traded his starting center, Vlade Divac, for Kobe, and, that started a dynasty.
Absolutely. And Ben?
I'm with Maurice. The scouting of Kobe Bryant, if you watch his high school highlights, he just had point guard skills, NBA he had handle at that size. So you kind of how he fell to 13. I think there was so much guard depth in this draft and Hall of Fame guard depth.
Yeah.
That's kind of how he fell. Yeah, it's got to be Kobe falling to 13.
Okay. My take is not just one player, but there are 4 players, and I'm just recognizing this now. 4 players in that range of 10 through or 11 through 20. 4 players didn't even go to college. And that's Kobe, Peja, Jermaine O'Neal, and Ilgauskas. So whether it was international they played or whether they came right out of high school, that was an interesting range, little detail that I didn't pick up on in the beginning. So, all right, let me finish this off so we can move on to the second quarter. And right now I'm going to go from pick number 21 all the way to pick 30. So at 21, you had Dante Jones. At number 22, Roy Rogers. Yes. Oh boy, 23. Ephemios Rencias.
That is a mouthful.
23. 24, you might know this name, Derek Fisher. 25, Martin Mursep. 26, Jerome Williams. 27, Brian Evans. 28, Priest Lauderdale.
That is an interesting name.
And yeah, very interesting. And number 29, Travis Knight. That's actually the end of round 1. So let's go to Ben first. Who stands out to you in that range?
Jerome Williams. I used to watch Iverson his last year at Georgetown, and he was really good. Him and Othello Harrington, and he had a pretty good career with the Pistons. I think he actually averaged like 10 rebounds in a season or close to it. So he was a really good like NBA player. Could play in today's game now. Yeah, that's a guy that stands out to me.
Yeah, he was a good forward. How about you,
Yeah.
Lucas?
Yeah.
I mean, I was going to say Derek Fisher, but Priest Lauderdale. That sounds like one of those. Okay, you guys seen Akeem Peel, right? You guys seen the comedies?
Yes.
It sounds like one of those names that you would hear on that comedy, on that East-West Bowl comedy sketch where they were doing all the ridiculous football player names. Priest Lauderdale sounds like one of those names. Now, I don't know who he is as a player. I don't know if he was good or not. But the name, that is what stuck out to me.
Don't worry, Lucas. I don't think any of us really saw a lot of Priest Lauderdale basketball. No, I'm sure he was a great college player. He went to Central State, but yeah, I mean, he went in the first round. Maurice, who stands out to you?
I'm gonna go with Ben because he took my guy too. I was gonna say Jerome Williams, big dog.
Yeah,
he was well, no, not the big dog. Excuse me, they call him the junkyard dog.
Yeah, I think it's something like that.
He was a really good rebounder, really good defensive player. Had 9 years in the NBA.
Yeah.
That says something, and even in the back end of that draft. So he had a good career.
All right, and for me, I'm going to go the route of Lucas, just someone who stands out just because of their name. I'm going to go with Ephemios Rencios.
That is a mouthful.
I just like saying that name. Yeah, that is a mouthful. All right, the final part of the segment is, was the number one pick, was the top pick, was it the right pick? In 1996, Allen Iverson went number one to the Sixers. Let's start with Maurice first. Was that the right pick, Maurice?
Yes. Allen Iverson coming out of Georgetown, he was the consensus number one pick.
Wait a minute, hold on. You sure about that? In your redraft, you said it was somebody else, right?
Well, no. I mean, I was looking back at it. Kobe was the better player, but I mean...
Right. Oh, you're saying at the time.
At the time. Okay.
Yeah, at the time.
My bad. Okay.
Yeah, at the time, he was the consensus number one pick out of Georgetown. Some people talked about Marbury, and some people talked about Canby, maybe, but no. Iverson was the star player out of that draft. He was number one, for sure.
All right, Ben?
Yeah, I actually was an Iverson fan before, and like his Georgetown highlights were just unbelievable. The skill, the athleticism. So no, they made the right pick for many reasons. Just for what the Sixers needed. I needed a player right now, and his skill set and kind of what he did on the college level in arguably the best conference in college. Yeah, it was a no-brainer that he was going to be the number one pick.
Yeah, absolutely. And Lucas?
I mean, I'm going to take the hindsight look in this one, and I'm going to say Kobe Bryant. I mean, the guy was working out with the Sixers. I remember listening to All the Smoke, I think it was, and hearing Jerry Stackhouse talk about how Kobe was like working out with the Sixers at that point. Hindsight's 2020. Nobody's going to be brave enough to take a high school or first overall at that point in time, but they should have.
I'll go with what everyone else said in terms of at that time, you could trust that Iverson was going to pan out just because of his freakish athleticism and what the Sixers needed at that time. Because remember, Charles Barkley was traded in 1992. That team was starving for some type of star, and there was no bigger star coming out of college than Iverson at the time.
Second quarter.
So now we're on to the best player segment. We're going to look up the best player in both the 84 draft and the 96 draft. Let me just ask you guys first, before we get into that. 84, can we all agree that Jordan was the best player in that one?
Of course.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yep.
cool.
Yeah.
So now I'm just going to read off the stats here first with both the Chicago Bulls and Washington Wizards. You got to include the Wizard years, man.
You do.
He averaged 30.1 points, 6.2 rebounds, 5.3 assists, 2.3 steals while shooting 49.7% from the field and 32.7% from the three-point line and 83.5% from the free throw line. He led the league in scoring most of his career, honestly. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 seasons. He led the league in scoring. he averaged over 30 points per game in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 seasons. That's all I'm going to do because we are going to have an MJ episode later on, and I don't want to get too much into it.
Right.
But the argument has been made that he is the GOAT. But what are the first things that come to your guys' minds when you hear the name Michael Jeffrey Jordan? I'll start with Maurice on this one.
What comes to my mind, Air Jordan. That's the first thing that comes to my mind. Besides that, the transcendent player that the NBA needed after Magic and Larry Bird, he really took the NBA to the next level when it comes to TV ratings, revenue, popularity. He pushed the game forward. That's a phrase that is more known with Kobe, but we'll talk about. But Michael Jordan pushed the game forward in a way that no one else could.
Well, what about you, Uriah? What's the first thing that you think of when you hear the name Michael Jeffrey Jordan?
Man, I think of impact. I think of wealth. I think of just an icon, larger than life itself when it comes to pop culture, when it comes to inspiration. In the 80s alone, in early 90s, he always had some type of video coming out.
Yeah.
Fly With Me. I the first Michael Jordan video on VHS, I watched it at least 100 times just because there were so many great highlights. There were so many unique moments that were captured documenting his childhood, interviews with his high school teachers, interviews with his parents. It was truly touching, and to just talk about this video brings back amazing memories. So I think of Jordan. That's what I think of.
Oh.
And the commercials too.
Yeah.
The first commercial was the band shoe,
Black and red.
Yeah, the black and red.
Ben, what do you think when you hear the name of Michael Jeffrey Jordan?
I think when I was getting into basketball, he was kind of in, I would say, early mid-90s, and he was just a god. I mean, everywhere you went, everything was Jordan on every commercial. You go into Sports Authority, shout out to RIP Sports Authority, but you go in there and it's just like decked out with Bulls, everything, posters.
Yeah.
My stepbrother Ross was like a massive Jordan fan, and like you would get the Jordans, you'd save up. It was just like a lifestyle like that. I don't think has ever been replicated. So that to me, that's just what it was. Like he was sports, not even basketball. Yeah. It was just. I remember going to a Sixers game in Iverson's second year, and Jordan was playing. It was like their last championship run, and it just was like I still to this day I've seen a lot of really good players. I've never experienced anything like that. And I think it's because he had such control. It's the IQ and the skill set were like evenly matched, and he just controlled the game in a way that no one has since, in my opinion.
I think of somebody that defined a decade. Because if you think of the 90s, if you think of the most famous person in the 90s, it's not Bill Clinton, it's not whoever you want to think it is. It's Michael Jordan. And it's not even close. Like you said, he not only influenced basketball, Space Jam. Space Jam.
Space Jam. Celebrity. Yeah, that's a good point. He
wasn't just
a movie star.
He influenced pop culture. He influenced what we wore, what we watched.
I was born in the 80s. So growing up in the late 80s and 90s, it was either Michael Jordan, Mike Tyson, or Michael Jackson.
Yep.
It was defined by the Michael.
1,000%.
1,000%. You can make the argument that Michael Jackson was on his decline and the whole entire ear thing.
But he was still a man.
He was still,
and the Mike Tyson in the ear thing probably just kind of ruined that thing for himself.
And then Maurice, to keep the M's going with Don, but yeah, it was the three Mikes. I remember thinking that I'm like, man, everyone's named Mike.
Mike,
right?
Mike, and Madonna.
Oh yeah,
say Madonna.
Yeah,
Madonna would. Okay, fair enough. But moving on, let's go to the '96 draft, and I think we're gonna have a little bit more controversy. So, I have Kobe Bryant as the best player in that draft. Uriah, do you agree?
Yeah,
I agree.
I do not agree.
Okay, let's get into it. Let me just go over the stats for both players, okay? Career stats. Let's go with Kobe first. May he rest in peace. 25 points for career average. 5.2 rebounds, 4.7 assists, 1.4 steals, shooting 44.7% from the field, 32.9% from three, and 38.7% from the field, okay? Keep that in mind. Then we go to Allen Iverson here. Career averages is 26.7, 3.7 rebounds, 6.2 assists, 2.2 steals, while shooting 42.5% from the field and 31.3% from the three-point line. So now that we've gone through these players, and we're not going to debate whether AI or Kobe, we'll leave that up to you guys. You guys know the pod at this point. But let me ask Uriah first. When you think of Kobe beating Bryant, what comes to mind?
What stands out to me is his infatuation with Michael Jordan.
Yeah.
So much so that he would emulate his moves.
Shaved his head like him.
He shaved his head like him. He didn't have a tattoo for a long time. And I think that's probably because Jordan refused to, have tattoos. He caved in eventually and expressed himself with his ink. But even in interviews, and I mentioned this before in an episode, he would talk like Jordan. Everything revolved around being like Mike. People would argue that he surpassed Mike when it came to certain aspects of his skill set. So when I think of Kobe, I think of just the mirror image of Michael Jordan. Their games are so similar. It's kind of eerie. Not eerie, but it's just interesting.
And Maurice, what do you think of Kobe?
Well, like I mentioned earlier, 84 draft generated the disciples of the next generation. It went from Michael Jordan to Kobe. And then it went from Kobe to a couple guys we featured on this podcast, on episodes on this podcast. Jason Tatum, Devin Booker, a bunch of guys who were influenced by Kobe coming along. It went from Magic and Bird to Jordan. It just goes down from there.
You're absolutely right, Uriah. When you think of somebody that was the mirror image of Michael Jordan, we're never going to get the next Michael Jordan. Let's be clear. Today's game wouldn't allow it. Kobe Bryant is the closest thing we will ever get to Michael Jordan. When I think about Kobe Bryant, I think of a guy who is not only one of the best of all times at what he did, he didn't have a chance to really show who he was after his career. And I know I'm not trying to get to a sad point here, but, obviously the tragedy that happened with him and his daughter, I don't think we can go without mentioning it, is just a real shame, because I think Kobe the person would have been even more exciting than Kobe the player.
Yeah, I would have really loved to have seen Kobe post-career.
I mean, he won
sure.
won an Oscar already just for that one video, right? So, or was it an Oscar, or was it something?
Yeah, I mean, we got to see a little bit of his post-career. Yeah, he was going to be quite a mentor. He was, because he did, what was his show he did?
I don't know if he did a show, but he was working with women's.
He did a show where he broke down players really well.
Yeah.
That was so good.
Spotlight?
Yeah, I think it was Spotlight.
Yeah.
That was cool.
Yeah.
ESPN
That was really cool. Yeah.
Just hearing him talk, that was just fantastic. So, Ben, what do you think of when you hear the name of Allen Iverson?
To me, his impact on the game, and both guys' impact, is so profound in different ways. And the fact that they both came out of the same draft. But I think Iverson, people don't say this much, but playoff riser. Guy was a dog, and it really showed up in the playoffs. He gave it his all in a way that I've never seen a player do, where he just jumped into people, and we take it for granted. You see all these injuries now with players, and we took it for granted how durable this guy was. I know he was a football player first. Eventually by year 12, 13, that caught up with them, but man, just an iconic 11-year run this guy had, and just scoring in an era that was not meant for him. The defenses were harder, the rules were different.
Yeah.
And so I just would have loved to see him in today's game. And I would have loved to see him with a little bit more help. I would say that's the biggest separation of these two. One had like a top 5-7 player of all time, and the other had second part of his career, Chris Webber.
I think one thing, Ben, that stands out from what you said, durability and being tough. I think Shaq has gone on record multiple times saying that Allen Iverson is the toughest player he's ever played against. And I think Shaq said that there were plenty of times where he could have blocked Iverson when he drove the lane, but I think he just didn't because he has such a high regard for his drive to compete at a 6 foot frame, 165 pounds. So yeah, Iverson, man, that's a good point.
Yeah, and I want to say like both guys, to me, this was a hard, like the reason why I chose Iverson is just because I think the individual 10-year run that he was on with no help, and a lot of that had to do with maybe the city, the front office. Kobe was coming off of Showtime LA, and he had Shaquille O'Neal, the MVP. And Phil Jackson. Like, come on.
I think comparing Kobe to Iverson, it's a tough comparison. I'll give him that. But one thing I will say about Iverson is, and I made this case with Steph Curry as well, he was more influential than Kobe. And you could make the case he was more influential than Michael Jordan for where the game went after that with Steph Curry. Because, we made the point Steph Curry, changed the game and changed the game.
Well, I'm going to build off of that, and then we're going to move on to our next segment. But I'm just going to finish it off by saying this. Allen Iverson not only influenced the game, but I would say is from that draft is the most culturally iconic trendsetter. Not only with the
that's kind of what I meant.
With the hair, with the tattoos, with the shooting sleeves. You know how many? Yeah. When I was in high school, shooting sleeves were still cool because of Allen Iverson. I tried to have a shooting sleeve. It didn't really work.
Did you have a shooting sleeve?
Oh yeah, I had a shooting sleeve. Was I made fun for it? Absolutely. But I wore it when the refs allowed me to wear it. But the refs were just like, "Nah, that's not code." I'm like, "What do you mean that's not?"
I would love to see Lucas wearing a shooting sleeve during the podcast.
I would. It's very hard to find them now, and I'm not paying like $30.
I think he was the only. I forgot about that, Lucas. I think I remember. It's funny. I just talked to a friend of mine, and I hadn't talked to, and he knew me from middle school, and we made a joke about, oh, do you still collect Iversons? And it made me think like Iverson, the shoe. Briefly, the questions. There was a era where that he actually competed with Jordan, and it's the only ever time that's ever happened. Only every time that's ever happened. It's never been even remotely close since. Yeah. The Kobe's now, actually, ironically, we're doing these two players. The Kobe's and Iversons are the only shoes to ever compete with MJ.
That's a good point, where Reebok was not considered a serious basketball shoe. Yes, they had the Reebok pumps, which were a fad because, I had the Reebok pumps. But Iverson, I guess, rejuvenated that shoe and really brought in a lot of revenue to the point where I think he has a lifetime deal with Reebok. Does. So Iverson definitely had a huge impact culturally.
Well, we're going to save Iverson because we do have a comp for him. Let's move on to our next segment.
Third quarter.
Okay, guys. So we've gone through the top players. We're going to talk about the sleeper picks. What a sleeper pick is, it's someone not the top guy, not MJ, not Hakeem, not Iverson, not Kobe, but someone that had maybe a good career that you didn't think about, just to kind of give us, just to show how good this draft was. The draft is not, both drafts aren't top heavy. They were deep as well, which is why this is considered the best draft comparison of all time, the 84 and 96 draft. So let's start it off. I'm going to start off with the 84 pick. So again, a sleeper pick is someone that essentially gets slept on, but maybe a fringe all-star, maybe a long career, maybe a defensive player that you didn't think of, but they probably fell in the draft. I'm going to start off with Uriah. Who's the top sleeper pick of the 84 draft?
All right, so my sleeper pick, Ben, is the number 27 pick in the 84 draft. Player named Ron Anderson. And Ryan Anderson, I watched him play growing up. He was a sixth man for the Sixers. Really, really underrated player. Could give you a bucket anywhere from 16 feet out. Not necessarily an outstanding three-point shooter, but Ryan Anderson was just a really, really cool role player that played a good amount of minutes for the Sixers in the early 90s, especially in the playoffs when they needed him off the bench to score. So my sleeper pick is Ron Anderson from Fresno State.
All right, that's a good pick. I remember him in highlights a little bit before my time, but
number 20. Yep.
All right, I'm gonna go with Maurice. Who is your sleeper pick of the 84 draft?
Well, before I mention this, I want to give credit to the 1984 documentary that you can find easily on YouTube. Oscar Schmidt. This is my sleeper pick only because he never played in NBA. He actually was picked up by the New Jersey Nets at the time, but he declined to play for them because he would lose his international international play. He couldn't play for the international team anymore if he played for the NBA. The guy scored almost 50,000 points. He didn't play in the NBA, but that's still more than Kareem. The guy played a long time. I think he played for 29 years, professional basketball.
That's crazy.
29 years? When did he start?
That's wild. He probably started like 15 though.
Okay,
like Luka.
so he played 20.
His playing career was from 1974 to 2003, but he was drafted in the 1984 draft.
How
So he was probably like 15.
No. If he was
like the
drafted in
Kembe
84,
Mutombo.
he had to at least be 18.
Yeah,
So
he was.
But he started in 70. He started in 74, so he probably Lucas. He probably was like 14. 15. It's probably like Luka.
He was born in
like
1958, so he was eligible.
Okay.
He was
So
eligible.
he was old in that draft. 26.
Yeah, he was. Played, like I said, he played 29 years. Drafted in the 6th round. Remember, in 1984, it was 10 rounds. It was shortened the year after. It was the 6th round, the 131st pick. And he's in the FIBA top 50 greatest players of all time. He's in the Italian Basketball Hall of Fame. And he's in the Naismith Memorial NBA Basketball Hall of Fame. So this guy was incredible. He's never played in the NBA. That's all. That's why he's my sleeper pick.
That's a great sleeper pick. And I when I saw that, I didn't know who that was. So Maurice brought something to our attention. I wouldn't even know.
I didn't know about him either, Maurice. And I looked him up, and I was like, wow, this guy was really good. Similar like to Sabonis. I mean, not that good, but he was. Yeah, it's too bad. The rules were really strict back then for international players.
And one quick quote from the 84 documentary. We're talking about 96. Kobe said this guy was more influential to him than Larry Bird.
Yeah,
really?
Well, I mean, his father was international, and if he was in the Italian Hall of Fame, he probably played against his
good
father.
Connection.
Look, this guy, I've known of this guy. I remember listening to him in some type of documentary. I can't remember which one, but I remember him influencing the likes of Leandro Barbosa, Anderson Varejao, Fab Melo, even possibly. So yeah, just good, solid pick, man.
All right. So what about you, Lucas? Who is your sleeper pick?
I'm going to go with the guy who was drafted the lowest out of the guys that I have in my redraft. And I'm going to go with Jerome Kersey, the 46th pick overall to the Portland Trailblazers. Played there a long time. He played there 11 seasons. And like for most of I would say for about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 of his 17 seasons, he averaged over 10 points per game. For a second-round pick in one season, he almost averaged 20. So for a second-round pick, I say that's really good. You know, won a championship with, I think, the Spurs in 99. So, yeah, he's going to be my guy there.
Yeah, Kersey, I remember watching him distinctly. He's a good forward, played alongside Clyde Drexler, Terry Porter, and all those guys in Portland. Kind of reminds me a little bit of a Robert Horry type player. Could definitely get it. I think he was in a dunk contest, right, Maurice? Jerome Kersey? You would know. You're the
yes,
dunk.
He was.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, that's a good sleeper pick, Lucas.
I'm going to go with, only because there weren't that many players, so that even though it's the 11th pick, Kevin Willis. In today's NBA, that would probably be outside lottery around a 20th pick. And why I say that is we mentioned before, I think Lucas mentioned it, he had a like 22-year career,
21.
something like that. 21, and he's a big man. And I actually remember Kevin Willis on the Vince Carter Raptors. That's kind of where I was like, and the big thing with him back then was I think he was around 40, and he was still efficient.
Yeah.
Like you could start him. He still was really good. And then learning that he was an all-star in the 92 season. So with the Atlanta Hawks. So I kind of found out about Kevin Willis after his prime. Because you heard about Robert Parrish, but Robert Parrish was kind of really a bench guy on those Bulls teams. But Kevin Willis was contributing.
Yeah.
And then he finally got a chip with Tim Duncan and David Robinson. So he had a really good career. All-Star, All-NBA, and he won an NBA championship. Yeah. So, and contributed, very similar to Vince Carter, contributed over 20 plus years.
Good pick.
All right, guys. So we're now moving on to a little bit deeper draft, in my opinion. So sleeper picks of the 1996 draft, arguably the deepest draft of all time with Hall of Famers. That's not even arguably. I think objectively it's the deepest draft with Hall of Famers or potential Hall of Famers. So I'm going to start off with Lucas.
I'm going to go with Ben Wallace. Tied with a player that we actually just recorded about, Dikembe Mutombo, for the most defensive player of the year awards. Won a championship with a non-superstar Detroit Pistons team. Led the league in blocks and rebounds multiple years. Undersized, still was a really good, powerful presence. One of the strongest players, in my opinion, in NBA history. Ben Wallace, center, 6'9", never really averaged much points, but you didn't need him to because he did everything else that you needed it. So I'm going to go with Ben.
He was 7'1" with his hair, just so you know.
That's a good one. Yeah, people forget that Ben Wallace was in that draft a lot of times. All right, Maurice, what about you? Well, who was your sleeper pick?
My sleeper pick is Derek Fisher, drafted with the 24th pick. Listen, all I got to say about Derek Fisher is Kobe Bryant didn't win an NBA championship without Derek Fisher. Just like we say, Scottie Pippen, who helped Michael Jordan win those championships.
Yeah.
Derek Fisher did the same for Kobe.
Yeah.
He was a really good player, a point guard that the Lakers needed next to Kobe Bryant. He played defense, but he was a passer, and he got Kobe the ball and let Kobe be great. When the Lakers draft a player with the 24th pick, and he goes on to give you 5 championships for your franchise, I would say, hey, that's a sleeper pick for me.
Yeah, and I want to add to that real quick. The attitude that he had the entire time when he was in LA, he could have easily had like a grudge or like been jealous because they were both drafted, obviously, in the same draft. Mm-hmm. Kobe never went to college. So Derek Fisher could have been like, who's this high school kid? And he's getting more minutes, he's getting more touches. But I think it takes an amount of humility and maturity for a guy like Derek Fisher to still be in a leadership position. And that's a good point, Maurice, saying like Jordan, Pippen, they didn't win without each other. Well, like you said, Kobe didn't win without Fisher. So,
yep.
Yeah, it's interesting, Uriah, you just mentioned that because you got to remember, too, the Lakers used that 96 draft to draft 2 guards. And they had Nick Van Exel and Eddie Jones, proven all-star level guards. Yep. And so it's really interesting that like their front office was like, no, we're just going to get the best guys for the future because they technically didn't need 2 guards. And yeah, they couldn't be any more different. You're right, Uriah. Like one went to all 4 years, small school, and then one kid came out of high school and was a lottery pick.
So I'm going to go with Peja Stojakovic. And I know he was in the top 20, but I think he should have been picked higher because if you look at his resume, he checks a lot of boxes for what teams needed at that time, teams that relied on heavy post game. You had a guy in Stojakovic who could shoot from anywhere on the court, sniping from the corner, from the top of the key, didn't matter. And I think he won a championship, right? Did he win a championship with Dallas or someone?
I think he won one with Dallas.
Did he win one with Dallas?
Did he?
He was on that Dirk team that won, I thought.
I think so. But if he did, and I'm sure someone will check that.
2011 NBA champion.
Yeah, so there you go. You have a guy who can help you win a championship, a guy who has range, a guy who has accuracy, and stayed out of trouble, didn't get into any controversy. So I'd say Peja is my sleeper.
I like it. I mean, there were so many to choose from. I'm actually surprised no one picked Nash, so I didn't pick Nash because I thought one of you guys would pick him.
Right.
But I'm not mad at my pick. I chose Jermaine O'Neal as my sleeper pick. Interesting stat. O'Neal and Kobe were both 17 when they were drafted. So they were not only high school, they were really young. And both guys going in the teens in this era. Kevin Garnett started it off. He had a good rookie year. He went the year before. And that was the first time a high schooler was drafted, I think, in the lottery since, was it Sean Kemp? Oh, Sean Kemp it was Daryl Dawkins, I want to say.
Either Daryl Dawkins or Moses Malone.
Yeah, it was one of them. So it had been a while, basically. Yeah. And so the fact that both guys went that high shows how good they were. And I think Jermaine O'Neal I chose because there was points in the NBA where he was considered a top 5, top 6 player.
Yeah,
I would say
remember that.
his peak in on the Pacers in the mid 2000s. So I always think he's kind of slept on, and he would have had, I think, earlier in his career, had he been with a different organization, he might have had more all-stars, more stuff like that. But,
Ben, you
yeah,
just reminded me of that iconic photograph of the guys in the 96 draft. It's kind of a portrait, really wide. So you see Jermaine O'Neal, fresh out of high school. You see Steve Nash. Iverson was not in that iconic picture.
Yeah.
I don't know if you guys noticed that.
Yeah. One of the Iverson documentaries, he talks about why he missed it.
Right.
I don't think it was for anything scandalous. I think it was like probably something with Reebok related, he said.
Okay.
But yeah, Jermaine O'Neal's game too, just to finish, his game was more like Garnett early. He was athleticism. He was on a very good Portland Trailblazers team that was deep with like Rasheed Wallace, Brian Grant. So they drafted the best player, but they didn't need his position.
Yeah.
And I remember him being like deep on that bench.
Yeah, he was.
But he couldn't play, and so they just kind of gave him away because they had Rasheed Wallace and Brian Grant, and they had other forwards. So yeah, they just didn't need a 19-year-old.
You mentioned Jermaine O'Neal. Me being a big Michael Jordan fan, Uriah might remember this. Michael Jordan's last hurrah at the NBA All-Star Game in 2003, he had the game-winning shot, and Jermaine O'Neal fouled Kobe. That always irked me. I'm sorry. I'm way off there.
Yeah, I'm thoroughly confused there. So what is him fouling Kobe?
You're talking about the All-Star game, right?
Yeah, I was talking about the All-Star game where Jordan had the game-winning shot, and it was supposed to be over, and they were going to stop the game.
Okay.
But the West team had one more possession, and Kobe dribbled the ball, and Jermaine O'Neal just fouled him on a shooting foul.
Oh, okay.
And Kobe tied the game, and it went overtime, and the West won.
Okay.
And then one other thing, I think we always have to. We've mentioned this with other Pacers players. You have to mention the asterisks of the malice in the palace. The Pacers were arguably favored to be an NBA champion that year, and so these players could have had a chip. They could have had many more accolades. So O'Neal was a casualty in that.
Fourth quarter.
All right, so we're going to start with the 1984 NBA redraft. And I'm going to start with 15 to 11. I'm going to rattle off some names. I'm going to go around the room. Everybody else is going to rattle off their names of the 15 through 11. And then I'll ask a question.
Cool.
So, 15th pick, Melvin Turpin. 14th pick, Sam Bowie. 13th pick, Jay Humphries. 12th pick, Vern Fleming. 11th pick, Michael Cage. Lucas,
I got Ron Anderson at 15th, Sam Bowie at 14th, Jay Humphries at 13th, Vern Fleming at 12th, Tony Campbell at 11th.
Campbell?
Campbell. I
Campbell, yeah.
That. Okay. Tony Campbell at 11th.
Ben?
I have Melvin Turpin at 15, Vern Fleming at 14, Jerome Kersey at 13, Jay Humphries at 12, and Sam Bowie at 11.
Uriah.
All right. I'm going to go Mel Turpin at 15, 14, Ron Anderson, 13, Tony Campbell, 12, Vern Fleming, and 11, Jay Humphries.
All right, so the question I'm going to ask is, and I'm going to divert a little bit, as you guys was naming that, I have a better question. Of the top 15 through 11, which player had the most impact on a winning team?
Ooh. That's a good question.
I'll say Sam Bowie on mine. I've heard Sam Bowie as a constant name, as an impactful player. Like I said, I never really saw these
when he was healthy. Yeah, right. When he was healthy, he was pretty good.
I would say Sam Bowie. Yeah, just like I said, I never saw these players play, but scutterbud around the NBA circles, Sam Bowie was the guy when he was healthy.
I'm gonna go the same, Sam Bowie. I remember him when he was on the Trailblazers, highlights. So, and I know he was obviously not what they predicted, but he was certainly impactful in a way that the other guys on the list are a little bit more of a role player.
So I think the guy from my 11 through 15, Maurice, is Jay Humphries, just because, not because of his mustache, but because he played a lot of his career with Milwaukee. He would average over 15 points a game in 1989, 1990. And he was kind of a stabilizing facilitator. He wasn't flashy like Magic, but he got the job done. So I think he contributed to a lot of their postseason success.
And for me, I go Jerome Kersey. He was a part of that Portland Trail Blazers team that gave the Lakers a run for their money in the late 80s. And, it went to the finals in 90 against the Pistons and 92 against the Bulls.
Yeah.
They didn't win, but those Portland Trail Blazers teams were really tough in the late 80s, early 90s, for sure.
Yeah.
All right, so moving on from 10 to 6. Number 10, I just mentioned Jerome Kersey. Number 9, Sam Perkins. Number 8, Otis Thorpe. Number 7, Kevin Willis. And number 6, Alvin Robertson. Now, let me start with Ben this time. Who do you have from 10 to 6?
So at 10, I was also fascinated by Oscar Schmidt. And then, so I have him at 10. 9, Sam Perkins. 8, Michael Cage. 7, Otis Thorpe. And 6, Kevin Willis.
Uriah.
My number 10 is Sam Bowie. And then number 9, I went Michael Cage. I remember him with the Sonics. Had a great Jerry curl when that was still a thing. Jerome Kersey is a little higher for me. I have him at 8. Kevin Willis is number 7. And the number 6 pick in the redraft for me is Sam Perkins.
And Lucas.
So my number 10 pick was Michael Cage. Number 9 was Jerome Kersey. Number 8, Sam Perkins. Number 7, Otis Thorpe. And number 6, Kevin Willis.
So from 10 to 6, let me ask you guys this. Which player contributed the most to the team's success, or any team they were on success? I'm going to start with Uriah.
All right, 10 through 6. So it definitely wasn't Sam Bowie because he was hurt so much, and it's just very unfortunate for him. I would say, for me, wow, because Sam Perkins helped the Lakers get to the finals, and he had a nice career, young player in Dallas. Then you had Jerome Kersey, who also helped the Blazers. I'm going to go with Jerome Kersey because, as you said, Maurice, he led or he helped the Blazers go up against the Bulls in the finals and the Pistons. So I'll go with Jerome Kersey.
As much as I would like to continue on with my sleeper pick with Jerome Kersey, I'm actually going to go with Sam Perkins on this one. When I hear Sam Perkins, I always think of one of those elite role players.
Yeah, Sam Perkins. I actually remember Sam Perkins being super clutch in the Pacers finals when they played the Lakers. He just was like, if they needed a 3, he was open. He wasn't obviously like even really their 6th man. I think they ran him as a backup center. He had size, so he's kind of the modern Sam Perkins' game would age really well. Yeah. I think he was a true like stretch 4 or 5. You're right. I actually didn't know that he was good on those Lakers teams. So yeah, I was actually going to pick him going off that Pacers run. Yeah. So
and I forgot he was with the Pacers, man. So like, we kind of helped each other out. Yeah. It kind of reminds me of Daniel Marshall a little bit.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then you see now teams like current teams now, you want a Sam Perkins. You want a Robert Horry.
You need a Sam Perkins.
You need them.
Yeah.
So
funny you mentioned Robert Horry. I would say Sam Perkins was Robert Horry before Robert Horry. Sam Perkins was 6'9". He was like that swingman, long arm swingman that shot threes and can rebound in the paint as well.
Yeah. He would bruise with the big guys. I remember like because he would have to guard Shaq. That's what I remember. They'd have to like. I mean, he was their backup big, but he would get some rebounds.
Yeah.
Speaking of Sam Perkins. Remember that iconic moment when Michael Jordan went right and then he went left with the layup against the Lakers?
Yeah.
That was against Sam Perkins. That was like...
Oh, he was in that frame?
Yeah, he was.
Okay. All right,
so let's do top 5. 5 to 1. In my redraft, I have number 5, Oscar Schmidt. Number 4, John Stockton. Number 3, Charles Barkley. Number 2, Hakeem Olajuwon. And number 1, of course, Michael Jordan. Let's go to Ben.
I was surprised by this one. I mean, we all probably have the same top 4 in whatever order, but Alvin Robertson is my 5th. John Stockton's my 4th. Charles Barkley's 3rd. That was actually kind of harder than I thought. Hakeem Olajuwon second, and Michael Jordan's first.
So I also had Alvin Robinson 5. This might be a little controversial, but I actually have Barkley at 4 and Stockton at 3. The reason why is because in terms of impact of, like, you look at the record, yes, Charles has an MVP, that's true. Neither of them ever won a championship. Stockton went to 2 finals versus Charles's 1. And here's the thing, nobody's ever going to break Stockton's all-time assist record. So
doesn't he have steals too?
I'm not sure, but
I think he is. I think
they did something like they were talking about LeBron scoring. I think that steals record is insane.
Yeah,
it's like it can't be broken.
My point is Stockton's like impact on the game in terms of like overall numbers is just insurmountable. So that's why I have Stockton 3, and then of course I have Hakeem 2 and MJ 1.
Uriah, who's your top 5?
The theme seems to be carrying over. Alvin Robertson at 5, great player, great defensive force. 4, Lucas was so good with his objective perspective that I thought about changing it, but I'm going to stick with my guns. John Stockton at 4, but then I got to go Charles Barkley at 3, Hakeem at 2, and Michael Jordan at 1.
I feel like people forget how good Charles was because of his current presence. Does that make sense?
He's so good on TV that we forget how good of a player
we forget
is.
how we know, obviously, but like in his prime, if you watch his highlights, you're like, this dude was like better than Zion, and it's just I think that's something that gets overlooked.
I mean,
whereas Stockton retired and like you don't see the guy. He's just occasionally there's like some anti-vax thing, but you don't hear about the guy. It's like
his son is plays for this, Stockton Kings.
But he lives like a quiet life, you know what I mean? Like whereas Barkley, I think sometimes you forget how good he actually was in his prime.
Yeah.
All right, so my question to you guys is, what's the biggest memory from any of these guys from the top 5? Start with Ben.
I'm going to have to go with I started watching basketball early Charles Barkley when he was still on the Sixers, so I have to say that. Like, and just it was my first exposure. My dad would watch him. It was my first exposure to seeing like a dominant player, and I was really impressed with how he was only 6'5" and just getting rebounds over 7-footers. Charles Barkley, the hustle, and he was just smaller than everyone, but he didn't care, and it was just amazing to watch.
Yeah, if I'm going to go with a memory here, I'm going to go with MJ. And, I could go about highlights that I've seen, but I'm going to go with an actual memory here. I'm going to talk about Space Jam for a minute here. Like, no, in all seriousness,
okay.
I mean,
I love Space Jam.
Look, I think it defined a lot of kids' childhoods, and it definitely made me more interested in Looney Tunes back in the day. Now the kids don't really know nothing about that, but Space Jam. I mean, it's and just seeing like the softer side of Michael, which still wasn't that soft. But what my favorite line is? And it wasn't even Michael's line in the movie, but it was
Larry Bird's Clear.
Yes. How did you know? How did you know?
we talked about it last month.
We talked about it.
We talked about it. Yeah.
I know. And Bill
he
Murray
was the one that said it.
Bill Murray was just awesome.
Yeah, he's so good in it.
Yeah,
he was.
How about when Bill Murray was like, "All right, this is the last play. You hit the hole, and he's like, and Jordan's like, Bill, we're on defense."
Yeah,
that was hilarious. He was like, I don't do defense.
You're right, man.
I'm gonna go with it's kind of connected to Ben because Charles Barkley was my favorite player growing up, but I'm gonna go with John Stockton because John Stockton, there's a distinct memory that I have of him. I guess it was the 96 or 97 Western Conference Finals. Charles Barkley was on Houston at that time. And I think everyone wanted Barkley to get a chip because Hakeem was there, Drexler was there, and we're thinking, man, Barkley's actually going to get a ring. And the game-winning shot, John Stockton gets the ball, raises up for 3, swishes it, and they eliminate the Rockets. So that stands out to me because, I mean, I didn't expect John Stockton to shoot that. I thought maybe Karl Malone would, but he pretty much ended Barkley's postseason hopes. So I'll go with Stockton.
And for me, it was Hakeem Olajuwon. Listen, Hakeem Olajuwon was the number 1 pick for a reason. He deserved to be the number 1 pick.
Mm-hmm.
looking at it back now, maybe not. But back then, he deserved to be the number one pick. Listen, this guy won 2 NBA championships. Hall of Famer. Like, he has a blocks record that might never be touched. He is one of the most transcendent players at the center position, maybe next to Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. His game is really passed on to players like Joel Embiid, who you compared on this podcast as well.
Mm-hmm.
We see a lot of Hakeem in Joel.
A lot.
So, yeah, Hakeem Olajuwon, we talk about Michael Jordan, but Hakeem, he's one of the all-time greats.
Amen.
Yeah, it's true. And he has that run we've talked about on his pod where he has that, no one's ever done it. It's like MVP, Defensive Player of the Year, and
Finals MVP
in the same year.
Yeah.
I think that's,
sick.
So let's move on to the 1996 NBA redraft. And so I'm going to start with 15. I'm going to go to 15 to 11, and I'm going to pass it on to everybody else. The 15th pick, I have Kerry Kittles. 14th pick, Eric Dampier. 13th, Derek Fisher. 12th, Marcus Camby. 11th, Jermaine O'Neal.
All right, my 15th pick is Jeff McGinnis. Then I have 14, Zydrunas Ilgauskas. Kerry Kittles at 13, Derek Fisher at 12, and Sharif Abdul-Rahim at 11.
All right, I have Derek Fisher at 15, Kerry Kittles at 14, Eric Dampier at 13, Zydrunas Ilgauskas at 12, and Sharif Abdul-Rahim at 11 as well.
I got Eric Dampier at 15th, Kerry Kittles at 14th, Derek Fisher at 13th, Sharif Abdul-Rahim at 12th, and Big Z himself, Zydrunas Ilgauskas at 11.
So because the 96 draft is a little bit more fresh in our memories, this question is going to be pretty much a lob to Lucas. Who are you guys' favorite player from this top 15 to 11? Lucas, take it away.
Ilgauskas, man. Look, when I first started watching basketball, he was LeBron James' number 2 guy, right? He was a 7'3" guy. Couldn't really move that much, but that was because of the foot injury he sustained early on in his career. He was the first big guy that had a really good mid-range shot that I saw. And I like shooting mid-ranges myself, so kind of, obviously my release was a lot smoother than Big Z's, but like
we don't know that for sure.
We need some footage. Might be able to find it.
Right.
We might be able to find out this summer, but we'll talk more about that later. Ooh. Yeah, we might be able to find out this summer. We'll see. But yeah, no. Look, Big Z, I don't know. I've always just kind of like, he wasn't the fastest, he wasn't the strongest, but he still kind of, he got at least one All-Star appearance, 2 maybe, but like, he's just that guy. I don't know. I just kind of gravitated towards him as a middle schooler.
All right, Ben.
I'm gonna go Kerry Kittles. Sorry, Uriah. I saw you looking. I was
going to Kerry Kittles too.
Yeah.
Nova. And then I thought his game. He had a couple NBA Finals runs.
Yeah, the Nets.
And he was very important. And he just, I think he would have been an all-star on like a different team. But yeah, no, I thought he was a very underrated player. He had a really good 8 or 9 year run. So I'm going to say Kerry Kittles.
You're right.
I'll say Kerry Kittles, just because I remember watching him at Villanova. I remember him in those final series, like Ben said, with the Nets. And everything Ben said, I have to agree with. Had he been on another team, he probably could have had higher numbers and just a solid career overall.
Yeah. And for me, I'm going to say Marcus Camby. Now, did Marcus Camby deserve to go number 2 coming out of UMass? Probably not. No. But I think his game would have translated very well into the NBA.
Yeah, absolutely.
In today's game. He's big, 6'11". I think he was 6'10", 6'11". He's a shot blocker, rebounder. We see a lot of those guys be successful today.
He was a Defensive Player of the Year,
I think he got one.
I think he got one.
Multi-time all-defensive team player for sure.
Crazy shot blocker, absolutely.
And honestly, he was a big part of that Knicks Finals run.
I only knew Marcus Camby from his Nugget days. That's when that's the Marcus Camby I remember.
And Lucas, I think that's when he was Defensive Player of the Year. Yeah, no, that's a good one, Maurice, Marcus Camby, because he had an interesting career because it took him a while to develop. But
I didn't have Marcus Camby until the next tier.
Okay, all right. Speaking of next tier, let's move on. So I'm gonna go 10 through 6. Number 10, I have Lejunas Ilgauskas. Number 9, Sharif Abdul-Rahim. Number 8, Antoine Walker. Number 7, Stephon Marbury. And number 6, Peja Stojakovic. So let's go on to Ben.
We were just talking about him. Number 10, Marcus Camby. Number 9, Antoine Walker. Number 8, Stephon Marbury. Number 7, my sleeper pick was Jermaine O'Neal. And number 6, Peja Stojakovic.
Ben almost have identical list here. The same players, at least. Number 10, Marcus Camby. Number 9, Antoine Walker. Number 7, Stephon Marbury. Number 8, Stephon Marbury. Number 7, Peja Stojakovic. And number 6, Jermaine O'Neal.
Okay. And Uriah.
My sleeper pick is the 10th pick, Peja Stojakovic. Then I go Camby, Marbury, Jermaine O'Neal, and Antoine Walker.
So all three of you guys have pretty much the same top 5 players for 10 through 6. So let me ask you guys this. Who was the most memorable player of those 5 picks?
I'm going to probably say Stephon Marbury, not necessarily for the good stuff. Definitely was a character off the court. The face tattoo with the star definitely rubbed some people the wrong way. Ended up getting himself essentially blacklisted in the league, despite having plenty left in the tank, playing in China for 11 years or something. But I'm going to say most memorable out of that group was probably Stephon Marbury.
He had a memorable shoe as well.
The Starberries.
The Starberries.
Was it like $15?
They were cheaper than the And ones. I know that.
Can't get mad at him for his motivation behind that. So I respect him for that.
That's interesting. That's a good one. And then Marbury had a very short-lived early career, but he was
very good.
He was really good, man. Yeah.
Remember that 01 All-Star game? The one
remember and one.
He was
but him and Garnett was just like musty basketball. It was a really good duo.
Yeah, that was a short career there with the Timberwolves.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Ben.
This is a tough one. I'm going to say Antoine Walker, just because of the list. I wanted to say Peja. It's got to be Antoine Walker, just with his shimmy shake. He just had so much personality. And then that Pierce Walker, I think they made a few conference finals, at least one. That was a really good duo.
Yeah, you're right.
Oh, well, since Ben took my Antoine Walker, I'm going to go with Jay Humphries because of his mustache.
Wrong draft.
I'm in the wrong year. Right?
Different era.
Different. No, to be serious, I'm going to go with. I will say Jermaine O'Neal, and I'll say Jermaine O'Neal because I did like his game. He had power, but he also had skill. And like you said earlier, I think it was Ben, he was kind of languishing out there in Portland because he was behind so many other prominent big men. But once he got his shot and he was with the Pacers and some of the other teams in his later career, he showed us how great he was. And he was a great NBA player. He may not have won a chip. He may not have had a lot of accolades, but Jermaine O'Neal was a memorable player to watch.
Jermaine O'Neal really was one of my favorite players.
And again, Uriah, I do think he could have won a chip. I think that they had to break up that band, that they had to break up that 60-plus win team.
Yeah.
After, so I really think, he would have had a chip.
Yeah.
I'll highlight Sharif Abdul-Rahim. He played until 2008. Played with 4 teams: the Grizzlies, the Hawks, Portland Trail Blazers, and the Kings. He was an All-Star. He was on the All-Rookie first team. For the 3rd pick, maybe not in the redraft going 3rd, but listen, this guy scored 15,000 points in his career. I would say that's pretty good.
That's
I would
very
say
good.
he had a pretty good career.
He was like Marbury Maurice, where he right away you're like, oh wow, this guy definitely top 3 or top 5, right? And then his game should have translated, but
I was thinking of somebody else when I heard this name because there's a short point guard in this really old point guard in the Big 3. He's kind of old, has a silver fox and go. I thought that was Shareem. I can't say his name right now, but that's who I thought it was. I don't know who that is. I thought that was him, but I guess not. And now I'm really confused who that was.
You're talking about Mahmoud Abdul Rauf. He used to go by Chris Jackson.
Yes.
He's the point guard for the
that is
Nuggets.
Chris Jackson.
I wouldn't know.
Rauf, yeah.
So another thing while we're on Raheem, I wanted to talk about was there were a lot of one and dones in this draft, which was really, really rare back then.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, so Raheem was one of them. I think he only did 1 year at Cal, and so did Marbury. Marbury only did 1 year at Georgia Tech. So there were a ton of quite a few of these guys were one and done.
All right, so let's do the top 5. 5th, I have Ben Wallace. 4th, Ray Allen. 3, Steve Nash. 2, Allen Iverson. And 1, Kobe Bryant. I'm going to go to Uriah.
Uriah has the most controversial
All
list
right.
here.
No, I don't think so.
I think I did.
Ben might have it. 5th, I have Steve Nash drafted. I have Ben Wallace picked 4th. I'll explain why later. Ray Allen is 3rd. Allen Iverson, number 2. And number 1 pick for me in the redraft would be Kobe Bryant.
So before we move on, that's going to be my question, the end.
Mm-hmm.
So just save your takes.
Okay.
All right, so go ahead, Ben.
You're right. We do have a lot of different takes here. Number 5, Ben Wallace. Number 4, Ray Allen. Number 3, Steve Nash. Number 2, Kobe Bryant. And number 1, Allen Iverson.
And Lucas.
I have Ben Wallace 5, Steve Nash 4th, Ray Allen 3rd, Allen Iverson 2nd, and Kobe Bryant 1st.
So my question is, this is going to be an easy question. Are there any objections to the top 5 redraft of the 1996 NBA draft? Lucas,
let me start off with Uriah's here first, because I have to know. Look, I don't have Steve Nash as a top 3, but I don't know how you can put Steve Nash below Ben Wallace. Can you explain your process there?
Sure, absolutely. Because I think as far as position and need, I think it's easier to draft a facilitator or a point guard who you don't necessarily need to score than it is to find someone as dominant as Ben Wallace.
Okay.
Because remember, let me finish.
Okay.
You asked me. So he also was the leading rebounder for I don't know how many years. He was a stable force in the paint for the Pistons, and 3 or 4 defensive player of the years. So whatever MVPs you're weighing to give Nash favor, I could say Ben Wallace has as many awards as Nash does. So there's your reason there, buddy.
Just to jump in real quick.
Yeah, that's a good one. I didn't even, and multiple finals appearance, Nash. Yeah, there's a bunch of stuff.
MVPs do matter, though. I will say that.
They do matter, but I think Ben Wallace brought something, like, I guess I just value defense a little bit more than the offense that Nash brought. And like I said, you can find a lot of 6 foot to 6'4" point guards in any draft and have them just run the show. You don't necessarily need a point guard to score. And, I think Ben Wallace was just as good at what he did.
I guess my question is, so you're doing this based off of what's easier to find. You're not doing this based off of who you believe is the actual better player.
Oh, Steve Nash is 10 times more skilled. Okay. But as far as redraft, if I'm like a GM and I see championship and I value defense, I'm going to go with Ben Wallace.
That explains why you
nothing against Nash.
That's a good point.
So
okay.
Yeah, so
that's a good point.
They're pretty interchangeable. That's it. Like, one is the extreme like offensive IQ, and one is like the extreme defensive IQ.
Exactly.
It's just like,
exactly.
Yeah, what do you need more?
All right. So I'm gonna go to you, Ben. Well, how do you've kind of mentioned it earlier, but Iverson over Kobe in the redraft?
Yeah, I just think obviously Kobe had a longer career, better defender, developed a really good game, but I just think that peak Allen Iverson with his roster, I think Iverson is more impactful and had more impact on the game overall, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
But I just think that if you were to break it down and not have a top 5 player all time next to Iverson, if Iverson played with Shaquille O'Neal, I think the championship accolades would be quite similar. Mm-hmm. And I think that's something that Kobe has. Obviously, he won 2 on his own later in his career with like Pau Gasol. But Iverson just really was probably one of the worst victims to like the GM The biggest fail was not drafting Paul Pierce. I think that's the number one thing. And then they just got old players. The poor guy in his shorter prime, 11 years, just never had a good running mate or a good team.
Yeah, sure.
And that's not his fault, but the team just never developed well around him. He took one of the more talentless teams to the NBA Finals. So,
and they drafted Larry Hughes over Paul Pierce.
Yeah, that of the entire thing, scope, that's the number one thing.
Yeah.
That and the 97 and 98 drafts were the biggest. I think had they gotten those right, and you have to understand Iverson's peak. Kobe even talks about it. And Iverson's peak was much earlier. Right away, Iverson was scoring 50s, crossing over Jordan. He was an All-NBA player pretty much. In his third season, he was a finalist for MVP. He led the league in scoring. Kobe was not doing that. He was developing his game. He was a little bit younger. So I just think that Iverson's first 10 years, like with his roster and what he was doing in the playoffs, the playoff leap, it's very close, but I still would have taken Iverson personally.
Iverson did more with less. And when Kobe was without Shaq or Pau Gasol, he wasn't doing much. He was barely hitting 500 with his team, where Iverson carried literally, well, maybe not literally, he carried guys to the finals like Matt Geiger, Eric Snow. So I see your point.
That was a carrier, right? He carried them.
Carried that team.
Yeah. I want to ask you guys this. Who would win in a 1984 versus 1996
if we took the top 5 players from each draft?
Let's go 10, like 12, like a real team.
I would say 96.
Okay, that's interesting.
They're deeper.
96. Yeah.
Was it
I
really
think so. You have Ben Wallace that should be able to do a decent job on Hakeem. Kobe and MJ cancel each other out. And then AI definitely has this edge over Stockton, and
you'd have Nash. You'd have a 3 guard because Kobe's 6'7", so you could put him at 3.
It doesn't matter.
Well, the starting lineups would be Ben Wallace. Who would be the power forward? Would it be Marcus Camby?
Jermaine O'Neal. Yeah, I would say Jermaine O'Neal.
You know what? I would have
Hakeem versus Ben Wallace. I'm giving that to
Ben would
Hakeem.
do a decent job.
Actually, no. You need O'Neal. You need O'Neal because of Barkley. You have to have size because if you got Barkley and Olajuwon,
I'm taking Barkley over O'Neal. I'm taking
anyone would.
I might take Steve Nash over Stockton.
I'm not talking about the starting 5. I'm saying the depth of the 96 draft. Yeah.
Overall team.
You said 12 people.
Yeah.
12, I mean, the starting 5 in the 84 draft might be better, but their depth certainly isn't. So
I'll just do the question out. You can cut it. Right.
You didn't get the answer you wanted. That's what.
All right.
I thought it was a good question.
Yeah, 3 on. Yeah, that is an interesting question. That's a good one, Maurice.
All right, thanks for hanging in there with us. We had a blast. We will come back with another draft comparison. Maybe you can let us know which draft classes you want us to compare. But until that time, this has been NBA Now and Then, the greatest comparisons. Peace.
See you
later. Listening to what we've heard, would you want to redraft any of these players? So, Maurice, take it over with the NBA redraft.
Dang, you don't have to give me the ball. All I want is the number 1 pick. Give me the number 1 pick. Give me the ping pong ball with number 1 on it. That's all I want.
I like that.